So here's a fact I'll just throw on the table, no pun intended. Dieting is hard. From calculating macros to eliminating food groups, the whole process can feel limiting and frustrating. But my next guest offers a different approach that makes healthy eating more simple. Miki Eberhardt is a registered dietitian who helps women create a healthy mind and a healthy body. And she says the trick is simply using your brain. That sounds all too simple, doesn't it?
You say it kind of isn't what it sounds like, because that sounds like we have to overthink it even more than we already are.
But eating with our mind, tell us how this concept plays out.
I think the first thing that I think of when it comes to this is to understand that one size does not fit all. And I think in this day and age, people are really passionate about how they eat. And if something works really great for one person, they want to share it, and they want to tell everyone about it. And we talk about it with friends. And so, okay, I'll try it and do it. And, you know, with before and afters and testimonials, a lot of times we can look and feel like this isn't working for me like I feel like it is for them.
And you almost feel an urgency, like she's counting macros. And look how that played out for her. And so that must be what I'm missing. And you said it's not always the case woman to woman.
No, it's not. And everything is so different. You know, I taught this class recently kind of about diet culture and how we get sucked into these rules and feel like either I'm missing out on something or I'm not doing it the way that I should be because I'm not getting the results. And I had this woman come up to me after that was just in tears. And she said, you know, I've just done all of these different diets and I honestly don't even know what to eat anymore. And I don't think she's alone in feeling that way. You know, I think it's a common thing that we go through, that we feel.
So if you're in that position, you're trying something, you're hearing about something, it's just not working for you, you actually have an analogy, I understand. You compare it to a car?
Yeah, one of my favorite analogies is comparing diets to a used car. You know, when you go and you're gonna buy a used car, you do your research, say you pick the one that you think is best, and you drive it around for a few weeks, it works great, and then all of a sudden it stops working. And it's this lemon of a used car. Well, sometimes what we think to do is, well, the analogy is, you wouldn't go and blame yourself. Like, you'd be like, oh, if I was just a better driver, the car would be able to work.
Right.
Obviously, we need to look at the carb. And it's the same thing with dieting, that we can try a diet and feel like, gosh, it's just not working. And often we reflect back on ourselves, like, what is wrong with me?
What's wrong with my body,
Why
my
can't
metabolism?
I do this?
Yeah.
When it's the diet.
It's the car or the diet in this case.
Yeah.
So you say it really does come down to, and here's the simplicity of it, common sense.
I know, right? Are you so glad you brought on a nutrition expert to say we need some common sense?
I find it kind of refreshing, but talk us through what this looks like, this common sense approach looks like on a day-to-day.
So just an example, you know, is that I do worksite wellness for companies that go inside, teach classes, coach with people, and just recently, a couple of weeks ago, I had this employee come up to me and say, Miki, okay, what do you think about the keto diet? And I said, well, what do you think about the keto diet? And she said, well, you know, I had a coworker that was doing it and lost weight, and she was telling me about it, and so I wanted to give it a whirl and try it. And I've been doing it for a few weeks, and I've lost some weight, but I love fruit, and that's one of my favorite things, and I really miss eating fruit, and I don't have the energy that I have to do the workouts that I like to do, and I'm constipated all the time, you know? And I said, okay, so it kind of sounds like it might not be a fit for you. And she was like, yeah, I don't think it is.
She probably wanted to just give you a big bear hug just for saying
the
that.
light bulb of like, it's okay to not be okay with maybe something that's popular that's going on.
So are you saying essentially if a diet doesn't feel good, it might not be good?
Exactly.
For you?
And you know, that can be in a physical feeling, mentally how we feel, emotionally how does it affect us and our families. If those things are off, it probably isn't. For sure, you're not going to be able to sustain it, and so it's probably not going to be a good fit.
So that's the go with your gut approach, really. I mean, literally, no pun intended.
Right, exactly.
Go with your gut.
Yeah.
Where does meal planning fit in all of this? You know, there's kind of a movement right now, and I appreciate it from an efficiency standpoint, where we are mapping out every meal, we are portioning every serving. What's the practical way to work that into this type of philosophy?
You know, great question, because I really feel that meal planning is a form of self-care. And the gamut of that is across the board. It can be someone that preps every single thing for the whole week. I see it more of just an approach of like looking at your week and planning out a handful of dinners and lunches and breakfasts and shopping from that list so that you have confidence knowing like I can eat from these things. And when you start to have trust in the things that feel good to you, then you're not always questioning and looking to go to rules. The thing that we love about diets that keeps us going back to them again and again is that structure. We just want to be told what we should do because it works. But the reality is we need more of a flexible framework that allows us to live and have life. And so when we can meal plan based on our schedules and our realities, then we can go into that with confidence knowing, okay, I've got food available, whether or not it's this exact thing that's on this quote diet, we have more confidence, and when we get that confidence, you gain more trust in yourself that you're picking the right things. This works well for me, and I think that's important.
I'm going to ask this under the framework of that loose structure you just described so beautifully. Is there a food that you would like to see women eat more of? Is there a food you would like to see women eat less of?
That's a great question, and I think in general, the blanket statements are hard. Like for women, when it's like, you know, I've heard fruit has too much sugar, so I'm not going to eat it. There is amazing things with fruit. Yes, it's got sugar. It's a natural form. Please eat it. You know, and right now it's with kind of keto rising in popularity again. It's starting to go away, and I think that's an important thing. You know, eating less of. Brooke, I am a big proponent of not putting labels on foods, you know, that there's not something like, oh, that's a bad thing, we shouldn't eat that anymore. I think in general, when we think about our own feelings, like if I eat too much of that food and I feel really yucky inside, honor that. And, you know, maybe that's not a good fit for you. You know, like if it's, you know, gluten or carbs or things like that, like when I eat it, even back to my example with that employee, you know, she knows that she has more energy from that she's regular, and you know, she can eat the things that she likes. Where someone that has celiac disease and is allergic to gluten, they would have a totally different feeling from eating that same type of food. And so when we think about how does that feel to you inside, like critical thinking, using your brain, you know, like how do I react to this food? It becomes a totally different thing. You don't need to listen to the rule. But you can think, okay, if everyone's doing low carb, that's great, but I really feel better when I eat carbs. Go with that.
I'll tell you why I appreciate this the most. You've tapped into kind of the trifecta of mind, body, spirit, which isn't that the optimal way of functioning, right?
Hands down.
When our body is in tune with how we're thinking, how we're feeling, isn't that the goal?
Yes, and then you don't, you know, our brain width and our bandwidth isn't sucked up using, you know, worrying about, you know, am I eating the right number of carbs and proteins and fat? We can do so much more good.
I'll just say thank you. On behalf of everyone listening, myself included, such great advice. Where can people connect with you and get more of your nutritional advice? I'm
on Instagram at Nutrition by Miki, or our worksite wellness stuff is at axum.co.
You're doing great things. I know motivating a lot of people. So we'll make those links easy for you to access on the Studio 5 website page as well.